night presses down on the English Channel. The sea is dark, restless, and crowded with ships moving without lights. From horizon to horizon, engines thrum in disciplined silence. Men sit shoulder to shoulder on steel decks, hands clenched around rifles, packs, and thoughts they cannot share. For many, this is the first time they have left their homeland. For some, it will be the last. It is the night of 5 June, 1944. Across the water lies occupied France, hedgerows, villages, and beaches fortified into what German leaders call Fortress Europe. Concrete bunkers face the sea, minefields wait beneath the surf. Somewhere inland, artillery crews sleep beside their guns, unaware that the largest amphibious invasion in history is already moving toward them. Above the fleet, aircraft drone through low cloud. Paratroopers check their gear by touch alone. Faces are smeared with blackened cork. Orders have been given and cannot be recalled. Whatever happens next will happen without rehearsal. This is Operation Overlord. Not a raid, not a probe, but the long-awaited major Allied ground assault into Northwest Europe, an attempt to break open the continent from the west and force Germany to fight where it has tried hardest to prevent a landing. The stakes are absolute. Failure would not simply cost lives. It would delay liberation, strengthen German defenses, and fracture Allied unity at the moment it matters most. Every calculation has been weighed against weather, tides, and time. Every deception has been crafted to pull German attention away from the true landing grounds. And still, uncertainty hangs over everything. Because no plan survives first contact with the shore. In a few hours, the quiet will shatter. Beaches will turn lethal. Units will scatter. Decisions will be made by junior officers and exhausted soldiers under fire, far from headquarters maps and prepared speeches. What begins tonight will decide whether the Allies can establish a foothold in occupied Europe or whether the continent remains sealed behind steel and concrete. The invasion is already underway. By the spring of 1944, the war in Europe has reached a breaking point but not yet a resolution. Germany still occupies most of Western Europe. France, Belgium, and the Netherlands remain under Nazi control. Along the Atlantic coast, concrete defenses stretch for miles, built on Hitler's belief that any Allied invasion from the sea can be shattered before it reaches land. This vision, Fortress Europe, is meant to keep the war far from German soil. Yet the pressure on Germany is already immense. In the east, the Red Army has survived the catastrophe of 1941 and turned the tide. After Stalingrad and Kursk, Soviet forces are pushing relentlessly westward, grinding down German manpower and equipment at a scale unmatched anywhere else in the war. Entire armies are being consumed. German reserves are bleeding out faster than they can be replaced. In the south, Western Allied forces are fighting their way up the Italian peninsula. Sicily has fallen. Mussolini has been overthrown. But Italy proves to be a slow, punishing campaign. Mountains, narrow roads, and well-prepared German defensive lines turn every advance into a costly struggle. Italy ties down German divisions, but it cannot break into the heart of occupied Europe. That reality shapes Allied thinking. By late 1943, it is clear that the war cannot be won through peripheral campaigns alone. Bombing Germany from the air is devastating industry and cities, but it is not enough. Italy is draining German strength, but too slowly. What is missing is a decisive ground front in Northwest Europe, one that forces Germany to commit its remaining reserves to a battle it cannot avoid. This is the second front, long demanded by the Soviet Union. For years, Stalin has pressed Britain and the United States to open a major land front in the West. Each delay is paid for in Soviet lives. By 1944, Allied leaders understand that credibility, alliance unity, and the overall balance of the war depend on delivering that front. The problem is scale. An invasion of northern France will be the most complex military operation ever attempted. It requires absolute naval superiority, overwhelming air control, precise coordination across nations, and a logistical system capable of sustaining millions of men on hostile shores. A failed landing would be catastrophic not only militarily, but politically. The Allies wait until the balance is unmistakable. By early 1944, that balance finally exists. Allied shipyards have flooded the oceans with landing craft. Air forces dominate the skies over Western Europe. German fighter strength has been worn down by sustained bombing and attrition. U-boat threats are contained. For the first time, the conditions necessary for a cross-channel invasion align. Germany senses the danger. Hitler knows an invasion is coming. He does not know where. Northern France is fortified heavily, but German command is divided. Some leaders expect the main blow at the narrow Pas de Calais. Others fear a broader landing farther west. Reserves are held back, awaiting certainty that never fully arrives. As winter turns to spring, both sides prepare in silence. The Allies are committed now not just to landing but to staying. Everything that follows depends on what happens in the first hours on the beaches of Normandy. And before a single soldier can step ashore, the invasion itself must be built piece by piece, decision by decision, under the weight of everything riding on its success. The invasion does not begin on the beaches. It begins years earlier, in arguments, compromises, and calculations that stretch across continents. By late 1943, Allied leaders understand that opening a major ground front in northwest Europe is no longer optional. It is inevitable. What remains uncertain is how it can be done without catastrophe. The responsibility for turning that inevitability into a workable plan falls to a newly created command, the Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, and to the man chosen to lead it, General Dwight D. Eisenhower. Eisenhower's role is unprecedented. He is not commanding a single national army, but a coalition. American, British, Canadian, and Free French forces must fight as one, despite differences in doctrine, experience, and political priorities. His task is as much diplomatic as military. Every decision must hold the alliance together while preparing for the most dangerous operation of the war. The first challenge is location. Northern France offers the shortest route across the Channel, but not the easiest one. The Pas de Calais lies closest to Britain and is heavily fortified. German planners expect an invasion there and have poured concrete, artillery, and elite units into its defense. Normandy, farther west, is less obvious and therefore less prepared, but it presents its own problems. Beaches are wider, distances are longer, ports are scarce. Normandy is chosen not because it is safe, but because it is possible. From there, the Allies believe they can establish a foothold, build artificial harbors, and push inland before German forces can concentrate and crush the landing. This calculation accepts risk, but it avoids predictability, and in invasion warfare, predictability is often fatal. Planning expands to a scale never seen before. Thousands of ships must be assembled. Landing craft must be built faster than shipyards have ever produced them. Air forces must isolate the battlefield by attacking rail lines, bridges, and roads across northern France, slowing German movement without revealing the true invasion site. Every unit must rehearse, repeatedly, until procedures become instinct. At the same time, deception becomes a weapon. The Allies understand that they cannot defeat Germany's defenses head-on everywhere. They must convince German command to look in the wrong direction at the critical moment. A broad deception effort is built to reinforce the idea that the main invasion will strike the Pas de Calais. Fake units, false radio traffic, and carefully shaped intelligence leaks are designed to hold German reserves in place even after the real landings begin. German command structure adds to the uncertainty. Responsibility for defending the western coast is divided. Field commanders argue over strategy. Some believe the invasion must be defeated on the beaches. Others believe reserves must be held back for a counterattack inland. Hitler, distrustful of his generals, keeps ultimate authority centralized, ensuring that rapid decisions will be difficult when speed matters most. Weather becomes the final variable. The invasion can only occur within a narrow window, dictated by tides, moonlight, and sea conditions. Too much wind, and landing craft will capsize. Too little visibility, and airborne forces will scatter beyond recovery. As June 1944 approaches, planners are forced to wait, watching forecasts that shift hour by hour. When the decision finally comes, it is not unanimous, but it is final. Orders are issued, troops move to embarkation points, aircraft are loaded. There will be no second chance of this scale. Success will depend on speed, coordination, and the ability to adapt once the first shots are fired. The invasion is now built. What remains is to execute it, beginning with the men who will land first, in darkness, far from the beaches that history will remember. The night before the invasion belongs to the ordinary soldier. In camps across southern England, men lie awake on their packs or sit silently, backs against walls, slick with damp. Some write letters they will never send, others clean weapons that are already clean. A few sleep, despite everything, bodies trained by months of exhaustion to shut down whenever possible. They know only fragments. They know they are crossing the Channel. They know they will land in France. They know the beaches have names instead of numbers. Most do not know what waits beyond the sand. For the paratroopers, the war begins first. Shortly after midnight, aircraft lift off in long, staggered lines. Inside, red lights glow dimly. Men check static lines, touch equipment, repeat the same motions drilled into them for months. When the doors open, cold air rushes in, carrying the smell of oil and the distant hint of the sea. The drop is never clean. Anti-aircraft fire erupts. Planes maneuver violently. Formations break apart. Many paratroopers land miles from their intended drop zones, some alone, some in small, improvised groups. Maps are useless. Landmarks are unfamiliar. What remains is training, instinct, and the ability to adapt under pressure. Yet even scattered, they begin to fight. Roads are cut, bridges are seized or destroyed. German units moving toward the coast encounter resistance where none was expected. Confusion spreads faster than orders. The airborne mission is not about perfection, it is about disruption, and in that, it succeeds. At sea, the assault force presses on. Landing craft ride low in the water, overloaded and vulnerable. Seasickness takes hold. Men vomit over the sides, wipe their mouths, and grip rifles harder. As dawn approaches, the coastline emerges from the mist, dark shapes resolving into bluffs, obstacles, and gun positions. This is where planning meets reality. The first waves hit the beaches under fire. Ramps drop. Some craft ground too far out, forcing soldiers to wade through water weighed down by packs and equipment. Others land directly in kill zones mapped months earlier but never truly understood. On some beaches, momentum builds quickly. Defenses are thinner. Units move inland, improvising paths through wire and mines. Naval gunfire silences key positions. Leadership at the small unit level, sergeants, lieutenants, corporals, makes the difference between paralysis and progress. On others, especially at Omaha, everything goes wrong. Strong currents scatter landing craft. German positions remain intact. Casualties mount rapidly. Units lose cohesion. Men shelter behind obstacles that offer little protection, pinned down with no clear path forward. For a moment, the invasion seems at risk of stalling where it cannot afford to. And yet, it does not collapse. Small groups begin to move up draws, around flanks, through gaps never meant to exist. Decisions are made without orders. Initiative replaces planning. The beachhead is not taken by design, but by persistence measured in yards and lives. This human dimension defines D-Day more than any map. The invasion does not succeed because every element works as intended. It succeeds because enough individuals adapt when intention fails. Fear is present everywhere, but it does not paralyze everyone at once. By mid-morning, footholds exist. They are fragile, they are uneven, but they are real. And as the day unfolds, it becomes clear that the outcome will not hinge on whether the landings occurred, but on whether the enemy can still organize a response strong enough to throw them back into the sea. That question shifts attention away from the beaches themselves toward the men watching from the other side of the front. From the German side, the invasion does not begin with shock. It begins with doubt. Reports filter in through fragmented channels, paratroopers inland, naval gunfire along the coast, landings underway at multiple points. None of it fits a single, clear picture. For years, German planners have expected an invasion, but uncertainty has been built into their expectations by design. This uncertainty paralyzes response. German command in the West is divided between competing philosophies. Some senior officers believe the invasion must be crushed at the waterline before Allied strength can accumulate. Others argue that reserves must be held back for a decisive counterattack once the main landing area is confirmed. These disagreements are not theoretical. They shape where divisions are placed, how quickly they can move, and who has the authority to release them. Above all of them stands Hitler. He retains personal control over key armored reserves. His fear is deception that Normandy is a diversion, and the real blow will fall elsewhere. Until he is convinced otherwise, he refuses to release formations that could decisively alter the first day's fighting. Hours pass, opportunities narrow. The moment where speed might have changed, the outcome begins to slip away. German units on the ground fight hard. At strong points overlooking the beaches, soldiers do exactly what they have been trained to do. They fire until positions are overrun or silenced by naval guns. Counterattacks are launched where possible. Local commanders act with initiative, but without the support needed to sustain momentum. Isolated successes cannot be connected into a coherent defense. Leadership at lower levels shows discipline. German platoons and companies withdraw methodically when required, repositioning to slow Allied advances inland. But without mobile reserves, these actions are defensive by necessity. The chance to concentrate force at the decisive point is lost, while higher command waits for clarity that never fully comes. The moral weight of the invasion becomes visible on both sides. For the Allies, every yard forward is paid for in casualties. Units that train together are broken apart and reformed on the move. Medics work continuously. The wounded are evacuated under fire. Victory, when it comes, does not feel triumphant. It feels earned and fragile. For German defenders, the invasion carries a different burden. Many understand what this moment represents. A successful Allied landing in Northwest Europe means the war has reached a stage where Germany can no longer dictate its terms. Orders continue to be followed. Positions are held. But beneath discipline lies the recognition that this front, once opened, will not be closed again. As daylight advances, the imbalance becomes clearer. Allied air power dominates the skies. German movement in daylight becomes dangerous, then impossible. Naval gunfire reaches far inland, denying assembly areas and road junctions. The very geography of Normandy begins working against the defenders, as hedgerows that once offered concealment now trap units under constant observation. By afternoon, German command begins adjusting its language. This is no longer described as a raid. It is an invasion. The question shifts from preventing a landing to containing one. That shift marks a psychological turning point as much as a strategic one. The centralized control that once seemed a strength now proves a liability. Delays at the top cascade downward. Decisions made too late cannot be recovered by bravery at the front. The German defensive system, built on assumptions of time and certainty, is being tested by chaos and speed. As evening approaches, Allied forces are still vulnerable, but they are ashore. And that single fact begins to outweigh everything else. Because once an enemy establishes a foothold, the logic of the war changes. Reinforcement becomes easier for the attacker and harder for the defender. Momentum shifts subtly, then irreversibly. The invasion has not yet succeeded, but it has not failed. And for Germany, that distinction will soon make all the difference. The decisive phase begins in fragments. There is no single moment when Operation Overlord turns from risk into inevitability. Instead, that shift happens unevenly, across miles of coastline and hours of brutal uncertainty, as the invasion survives its most vulnerable window. By mid-morning, on 6 June 1944, the beaches are no longer isolated events. They are connected problems. At Utah Beach, currents push landing craft off course, but fortune follows the mistake. American troops come ashore in a sector less heavily defended than planned. German resistance is scattered. Units reorganize quickly, push inland, and link up with airborne forces that, despite heavy dispersion, have already begun disrupting roads and command nodes. Progress is faster than expected, and momentum builds early. At Gold, Juno, and Sword, British and Canadian forces face stiff resistance but benefit from specialized equipment and rapid coordination. Engineers clear obstacles under fire. Armor follows closely behind infantry. Naval gunfire suppresses strong points with increasing accuracy as observers move forward. Casualties are heavy, but advances are steady. Villages inland begin to fall by afternoon. Then there is Omaha Beach. Here, the invasion nearly breaks. Strong German positions remain intact. Landing craft arrive out of sequence. Tanks founder in heavy seas and sink before reaching shore. Infantry units are pinned down by overlapping fields of fire, trapped between rising tide and concrete defenses above them. Casualties mount at a rate that alarms commanders watching from offshore. For a time, command dissolves. Officers are killed or wounded. Radios fail. Units lose identity. What remains are small groups of men, sometimes no more than a dozen, seeking any path off the sand. They crawl. They climb. They cut through wire and mines, not because they are ordered to, but because staying still guarantees death. This is where Overlord is decided. Not by generals. Not by plans. But by junior leaders and exhausted soldiers making local decisions under fire. Naval gunfire shifts closer, dangerously close, to suppress German positions that refuse to fall. Destroyers move in toward shore, risking mines and artillery to bring their guns to bear. Slowly, painfully, gaps open. Draws are breached. Bluffs are climbed from angles German defenders did not expect. By early afternoon, footholds exist at Omaha. They are shallow, they are fragile, but they exist. Across all 5 beaches, a similar pattern emerges. The invasion does not advance as a single wave. It advances in pulses, stalling in places, surging in others. Supply begins to flow ashore. Wounded are evacuated. Commanders regain partial control and start stitching the beachheads together. German counterattacks are limited and local. Without armored reserves released in time, they lack the mass to drive the Allies back into the sea. Units fight stubbornly, but they fight alone. The opportunity to strike decisively is passing with every hour that Allied numbers increase. As night approaches, the situation remains dangerous. The Allies have not yet broken out. The beaches are still within artillery range. Paratroopers remain scattered. German forces are regrouping where they can. But the most critical question has been answered. The invasion has survived day 1. And with that survival, the balance begins to tilt slowly, but permanently away from Fortress Europe and toward something Germany can no longer contain. By the night of **6 June 1944, the meaning of the day has changed. What began as a gamble measured in minutes has become a contest measured in endurance. Along the Normandy coast, Allied forces work through darkness to consolidate what they have taken. Engineers clear mines under dim lights. Medics move between positions, guided by sound more than sight. Supplies come ashore steadily now. Ammunition, water, radios, reinforcements each load, making the beachheads harder to erase. German forces probe constantly. Small counterattacks strike exposed positions. Artillery fires intermittently, testing ranges and reactions. But the decisive blow never comes. The armored formations that might have shattered the fragile Allied hold are still delayed, scattered, or committed too late to change the day's outcome. That delay proves fatal. By dawn on 7 June, the imbalance becomes visible. Allied air power fills the sky. German movement in daylight is punished immediately. Roads leading toward the beaches become killing zones. Communications break down as headquarters are forced to relocate repeatedly under attack. The beachheads begin to merge. At Utah, American forces link firmly with airborne units, expanding inland and securing key causeways. At Gold and Sword, British forces push toward Bayou, cutting German lateral movement. Canadian units at Juno, fight through determined resistance, suffering heavy losses but gaining ground yard by yard. Omaha remains the most dangerous sector, but even here, momentum shifts. Overnight reinforcements strengthen the thin footholds carved into the bluffs. Artillery is brought ashore. Command structures stabilize. What had been chaos begins to resemble a front line. German defenders, outnumbered and increasingly isolated, fall back to secondary positions. German command now faces reality. This is no longer an invasion that can be thrown back. It is an expanding lodgment. Every hour brings more men, more equipment, and more firepower ashore. Every delay in response multiplies the difficulty of containment. Hitler's control continues to slow reaction. Orders move through layers of approval. Counterattacks are planned, revised, and postponed. When they finally occur, they are piecemeal, brave, disciplined, and ultimately insufficient. The window for decisive action has closed. By the end of the second day, the strategic picture is unmistakable. The Allies have secured a continuous foothold in Normandy. They have not yet broken free of the beachhead, but they no longer need to. Germany has failed to prevent the opening of a major Allied ground front in northwest Europe. Fortress Europe has been breached, not everywhere, not cleanly, but irreversibly. From this moment forward, the war in the West will be fought on German-occupied soil. Every village taken inland will widen the crack opened on these beaches. Every German division committed here will be one less available elsewhere. The invasion has crossed its true point of no return. What follows will not be decided by whether the Allies can stay ashore, but by how quickly they can turn this foothold into liberation, and what that transformation will cost both sides. By the night of **6, June 1944, the meaning of the day has changed. What began as a gamble measured in minutes has become a contest measured in endurance. Along the Normandy coast, Allied forces work through darkness to consolidate what they have taken. Engineers clear mines under dim lights. Medics move between positions, guided by sound more than sight. Supplies come ashore steadily now. Ammunition, water, radios, reinforcements, each load making the beachheads harder to erase. German forces probe constantly. Small counterattacks strike exposed positions. Artillery fires intermittently, testing ranges and reactions, but the decisive blow never comes. The armored formations that might have shattered the fragile Allied hold are still delayed, scattered, or committed too late to change the day's outcome. That delay proves fatal. By dawn on **7 June**, the imbalance becomes visible. Allied air power fills the sky. German movement in daylight is punished immediately. Roads leading toward the beaches become killing zones. Communications break down as headquarters are forced to relocate repeatedly under attack. The beachheads begin to merge. At Utah American forces link firmly with airborne units, expanding inland and securing key causeways. At Gold and Sword British forces push toward Bayeux, cutting German lateral movement. Canadian units at Juno fight through determined resistance, suffering heavy losses but gaining ground yard by yard. Omaha remains the most dangerous sector, but even here, momentum shifts. Overnight reinforcements strengthen the thin footholds carved into the bluffs. Artillery is brought ashore. Command structures stabilize. What had been chaos begins to resemble a front line. German defenders, outnumbered and increasingly isolated, fall back to secondary positions. German command now faces reality. This is no longer an invasion that can be thrown back. It is an expanding lodgment. Every hour brings more men, more equipment, and more firepower ashore. Every delay in response multiplies the difficulty of containment. Hitler's control continues to slow reaction. Orders move through layers of approval. Counterattacks are planned, revised, and postponed. When they finally occur, they are piecemeal, brave, disciplined, and ultimately insufficient. The window for decisive action has closed. By the end of the second day, the strategic picture is unmistakable. The Allies have secured a continuous foothold in Normandy. They have not yet broken free of the beachhead, but they no longer need to. Germany has failed to prevent the opening of a major Allied ground front in northwest Europe. Fortress Europe has been breached not everywhere, not cleanly, but irreversibly. From this moment forward, the war in the West will be fought on German-occupied soil. Every village taken inland will widen the crack opened on these beaches. Every German division committed here will be one less available elsewhere. The invasion has crossed its true point of no return. What follows will not be decided by whether the Allies can stay ashore, but by how quickly they can turn this foothold into liberation, and what that transformation will cost both sides. The wider consequences of the invasion unfold beyond the beaches, in decisions made far from Normandy's surf. For Germany, the opening of a major Allied ground front in northwest Europe intensifies a war that is already becoming unsustainable. Forces are now required on three demanding fronts at once: the East against the Soviet Union, the South in Italy, and the West in France. Resources that were once shifted back and forth are now pinned in place. There is no longer a safe margin anywhere. German command is forced into reaction rather than initiative. Divisions rushed toward Normandy arrive piecemeal, under constant air attack, often without full equipment or support. Defensive plans are improvised. Counteroffensives are delayed or scaled down. What remains of Germany's strategic flexibility drains away week by week as the Western Front expands. For the Allies, Overlord reshapes priorities immediately. Planning moves from invasion to sustainment. The challenge becomes not how to land, but how to keep millions of men supplied across the Channel while fighting through some of the most difficult terrain in Western Europe. The hedgerows of Normandy slow advances, increase casualties, and test patience, but they no longer threaten the existence of the front itself. Liberation becomes a process rather than a moment. French towns and villages emerge from occupation unevenly. Some greet Allied troops with celebration, others bear the scars of bombardment and retreating forces. Civil administration has to be rebuilt alongside military momentum. War and freedom arrive together, inseparable and costly. Strategically, the invasion changes how time is measured. From this point on, Germany is losing ground faster than it can replace losses. The war's outcome is not immediate, but its direction is fixed. Every German division committed to Normandy is one less available to slow the Red Army in the east or resist pressure elsewhere. For the Allied coalition, Overlord validates years of preparation. It proves that multinational forces can plan, deceive, and execute an operation of unprecedented scale. It confirms that air superiority, naval dominance, and industrial capacity can be translated into decisive action on land. And it sets the conditions for everything that follows: the breakout from Normandy, the liberation of Paris, and the advance toward Germany itself. The invasion does not end the war, but it ensures that the war will now be fought where Germany can no longer avoid it, and at a pace Germany cannot control. With the immediate and strategic consequences of D-Day now clear, what remains is to step back from events and consider what Operation Overlord ultimately meant for the war, for Europe, and for the people who carried it forward under fire. The meaning of Operation Overlord does not rest in the scale of its armada or the length of its casualty lists. It rests in what changed afterward. On the morning of 6 June 1944, the future of Europe was uncertain in a way it would never be again. By nightfall, that uncertainty had narrowed. The Allies were ashore, not as raiders or temporary intruders, but as an occupying force with no intention of leaving. From that moment on, Germany was no longer defending the edges of its empire. It was fighting for its survival. Overlord shows how modern wars are decided less by single moments than by systems. Air power did not win the beaches alone. Naval fire did not win them alone. Courage did not win them alone. Victory emerged from the alignment of preparation, deception, logistics, leadership, and individual decision-making under pressure. When any one element faltered, others compensated. That balance is what made the invasion endure. The operation also reveals the cost behind historical turning points. D-Day is often remembered through maps and dates, but it was lived through fear, confusion, and exhaustion. Thousands of men did not experience it as a triumph, but as survival measured in minutes. Their contribution was not abstract. It was physical, immediate, and irreversible. For Europe, Overlord marked the beginning of the end of occupation. Liberation did not arrive cleanly or without destruction, but it arrived with permanence. The Western Front did not collapse overnight, yet it never closed again. Every mile gained inland carried the war closer to Germany's borders and further from the beaches where it began. And for history, Operation Overlord stands as a reminder of what commitment truly means. Once launched, it could not be undone. Success required accepting risk on a scale no leader could fully control. That risk was taken not because victory was guaranteed, but because delay had become more dangerous than action. D-Day did not end the war. It ensured that the war would now be decided, and that decision would be carried forward by those who had crossed the Channel, knowing they might never return. In that knowledge and in that resolve, the shape of the modern world was changed forever.